And there are three kinds of laziness spoken of in the teachings. It's quite interesting, these three kinds of laziness. There may be more, but three main kinds are spoken of. One is the laziness of, जो कल कर सकते हैं वो तो कल ही करेंगे, परसों करेंगे, आज नहीं करेंगे. Procrastination we say in English. Leaving till the future what actually should or could be done today. आज नहीं करेंगे, आज नहीं पढ़ेंगे, आज meditation नहीं करेंगे, आज ये श्लोक या सूत्रा या जो भी पढ़ना चाहता हूँ आज नहीं करूँगा, कल करूँगा. वो कल आता है तो कल करूँगा. Keep on delaying. Maybe then you die. Second kind of laziness is actually, it looks like it's not laziness, but it is laziness. This laziness is being very, very, very busy doing unimportant things. So checking your WhatsApp or Instagram every 2 minutes, washing your car, washing your hands, washing your face, changing your clothes all the time. Jo bhi hai, samsaric activities, competing with others, always competing, checking stocks and shares. Mere shares ka kya ho gaya, ye kya ho gaya. Interfering with each other, with one's children, with one's parents, minding other people's business when we should just mind our own business, going to the mall, spending 3 or 4 hours there, looking at all the things. If we have money, then buying some of the things. This is laziness. Looks like very active to other people. अरे ये तो यहाँ जाती है, वहाँ जाता है, social life बहुत है इसका, party में जाता है रोज, कितना बढ़िया है. From a dharmic point of view, it's laziness, because you're not doing anything virtuous. You're only indulging in what you want. Haji, that's a good posture. It makes you feel relaxed. ये भी ठीक है. सब लोग ये सब तकिया लेके बैठे. Like a teddy bear. No? So, ये बात है. That's the thing. Always on the move. Always. It's like people who have to, in England, जहाँ नौकर नहीं होते हैं, खुद अपने गाड़ियाँ साफ कर रहे हैं, ये वो कर रहे हैं, और करते जा रहे हैं. You ask them, have you had one good thought towards other people today? Have you done any kind of practice of calming your mind or understanding who you are, what you are, what is life? Kuch nahi, kaddu. Just ordinary daily activities. Khana, pina, sona, खरीदना, झगड़ा करना, टीवी देखना, स्मार्टफोन, जीवन साथी जो है स्मार्टफोन हमारा, उसके साथ एक संबंध रखना, वही करते हैं हम लोग. Day in, day out. That's laziness from a dharmic point of view. And any Maulvi or any Acharya, anyone from any tradition will say also the same thing. अगर आप यही कर रहे हैं, then dharmically you are lazy. It's not dharam. What's the word for dharam in Islam? What's the word used for religion? Iman. Iman. Yeah. Iman. तो ये ईमान नहीं है. This is laziness. Susti. Because all your energy is going into these things. You don't have time or energy for any authentic spiritual religious practice. You won't even read anything, let alone practice it. That's the second kind. Third kind of laziness, which is also very prevalent and very destructive, is the laziness which is actually a form of putting yourself down. It's lack of self-esteem, saying, I can't do this. ये मेरे बस का नहीं. पहले के संत लोग कर सकते थे, मैं नहीं कर सकता. And then you give 100 reasons why you can't do spiritual practice. Time नहीं है, या ये काम है, वो काम है, ये तो बहुत मुश्किल है ना, मेरे बस का नहीं है. That's a form of self-defeatism. It's another form of laziness. It's a big excuse. Then you say, हाँ मैं तो useless हूँ, ये बाकी लोग कर सकते हैं या ये लोग कर सकते थे, I can't do it. And then you give yourself the permission to not do anything except those other samsaric activities. So these three kinds of laziness, good to remember and check in one's own life. Am I doing this? Putting off good actions to tomorrow, engaging in 1,000 other kind of actions which are not so meaningful. I mean, let's face it, after having a basic clothing and some food and rest, what else do we need? And shelter, of course. But do you have to paint and scrub and clean your house every 2 days? Do you have to do all these things, you know? हद से ज़्यादा करते हैं ना हम लोग. What is it to be a human being? We should check again. What is a human being? Are we just an intelligent animal who is, instead of a ghonsla, a nest, we have a house, we have children, we bring them up, you know, and then we kick them out of the nest, or whatever. We want them to then take care of us. What are we doing with our life? Eating, sleeping, reproducing. Animals do that. So how are we different from animals? We have to check. All the religions say we are different from animals. We can do much more than animals because we have this remarkable human mind. That's the reason. And a certain kind of body, yeah, which we can understand on deeper, subtle levels, the body also. In the esoteric, secret traditions of all the religions, there is an understanding of the body in a very deep way. Our body is not just flesh and blood. They're very subtle aspects to our body, which can be awakened through yoga, through practices, spiritual practices. And then we can develop very powerful insight and even powers based on that understanding of the inner subtle body. Yeah. But we don't do this because we're lazy. And now the entertainment industry is so powerful, isn't it? We don't need to do anything. Ghar jao, baith jao. If you have the right policy with the right cable operator or whatever, Tata Sky, जो भी है, बैठ के देखो, 24 घंटे देखो, देखना है. 50 साल पहले जब टीवी पहले आया दिल्ली में, तो एक प्रोग्राम होता था 1 घंटे के लिए दूरदर्शन पे, और सैटरडे को एक फिल्म होता था. तो हमारे आंटी बड़ा फिल्म का इंतज़ार करती थी कि सैटरडे को या संडे को, याद नहीं है, एक फिल्म दिखाते थे टीवी पे. आई एम टॉकिंग 70s की बात है, इवन अप टू द 70s, एक ही फिल्म सैटरडे को या संडे को. अब देखो,
till 90s,
मे बी इवन देन, अब तो सैकड़ों चैनल्स, बाप रे बाप रे. सो यू नीड नेवर do any creative thinking. You just have to have, maybe now you have a button or you have a phone, you call for your food to come, you know? You call for the food, वो ले आएगा पिज़्ज़ा वाला या जो भी है, वो ले आएगा. आप बैठे रहिए, टीवी देखिए, इंटरनेट देखिए, कुछ नहीं करना. While you're sitting there vegetating, आपके धीरे धीरे, you know, our body and mind will degenerate. Because we are human beings, we are supposed to use this body to walk around a little bit, not to sit like this all day with a cup of coffee or whatever in our hand. So that's the thing. Yeah. Any questions about what we looked at so far before we go on to this part of this text? Any question, any feedback? Everything clear? Are you sure? Okay, so let me check how much you've been listening. What are the Four Noble Truths? Someone, new person, one of you four. What are the Four Noble Truths? First truth, kya tha? The first thing Buddha taught that I mentioned at least 3 times.
The causes.
The first truth. Like the doctor, if you go to the doctor, whether or not he is even interested in you will depend on the first truth, whether you have this first truth or not, whether it applies to you or not. Can you remember?
He should tell about the disease.
So that is the truth of? Truth of? Truth of suffering. Dukh hai. Suffering hai. आप बीमार हैं. Somebody else? Second truth? What's the second noble truth?
Cause.
Somebody else? हाँ जी. Class 12 वाले, class 11 वाले. Cause of suffering? Give me answer. Okay, cause of suffering is what?
Ignorance.
Clinging, which
Ignorance.
comes from ignorance, yeah. Clinging, grasping, wanting, leading to all kinds of negative emotions. And negative emotions make us engage in negative actions. Akushal karam, which leads to suffering, more and more suffering. Okay, third noble truth. Based on this, the doctor does something. If there's no third noble truth, then the doctor wouldn't even bother.
The path to
And suffering.
how to end the
No? That's the
training
path.
mind.
What is the third noble truth?
There's
It's a fact.
possibility
It's like a
to
fact.
complete end the suffering.
Sorry?
There's a possibility to completely end
Yeah,
the
there is a cessation of suffering. There is an ending of suffering. Dukkha nirodha. Ending of suffering. Stopping of suffering. Stopping of suffering. Which is based on the fourth noble truth, which is, you already said it.
The path to
हाँ. So it's like the doctor saying आप बीमार हैं, इसका कारण मैं जानता हूँ, ये ख़त्म भी हो सकता है, ये आपका बीमारी ख़त्म हो सकता है, लेकिन ये दवाई खाना पड़ेगा, इलाज है, ऐसे ऐसे आपको खाना पड़ेगा, इस टाइम पे खाना पड़ेगा,
patience.
खाने से पहले या खाने के बाद, सुबह शाम जो भी है, ठंडे या गर्म पानी के साथ या जो भी है, आपको ये करना पड़ेगा. So this is very important. So simple, but so important. Because if we don't understand our suffering, most people don't think they're suffering. I mean, they don't understand it at some level. बस चल रहा है, गाड़ी है, चलती का नाम गाड़ी. This is life. What to do? You know, it's a very vague, unsatisfactory way of looking at your life. So what Buddha meant is we have all kinds of suffering: physical suffering, mental suffering. Even what we call happiness is a kind of suffering because it doesn't last. None of our happinesses last. So he said they are also dukkha, you know, unsatisfactory, because it doesn't last. It changes also. You know, how long does a pleasure last? All these happinesses we have, they're very momentary, kshanik sukh. कोई इसमें निरंतरता नहीं है. No continuity. Happinesses end so quickly. So Buddha said they're basically another form of suffering, dukkha. They're not fully satisfying. And another level of suffering is that so long as we have this kind of a body and mind created by these negative actions and karam, there will never be any kind of happiness. It's like the whole root of our life is something contaminated at the moment. Destructive emotions, destructive actions, negative actions have created this life, created the karma to be born in this kind of life, this kind of body, which of course is very wonderful also, but it is also suffering. So don't get confused by the apparent contradiction here. Buddha is saying we have a wonderful human life, those of us who have the time, that is, and the interest to study and practice. It's a wonderful thing, but still he says it's suffering, because the root is still there. This root of negative emotions, which have created negative actions, have made us have this kind of rebirth in a kind of body and mind which easily suffers. You understand? Our body, you might think you might be very proud of your body. You know, compared to other people's bodies, it may be very fit, very beautiful, jo bhi hai. But we know that even a tiny bacteria or virus can make us so sick or even kill us. So what does that say about this wonderful body? It's so susceptible to suffering. And our mind, again, you may be triple PhD and you have Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, whatever, but you may still get angry at the smallest thing, or be jealous of someone who has one more PhD than you, or competitive with them. So what's the point? आपका दिमाग तो वही सड़ा हुआ है ना एक तरह से. It's contaminated. So Buddha is saying, yeah, that's the deepest level of suffering, is that our whole life is like dominated by this matrix, if you like, this matrix of destructive emotions and negative karma. Of course, we also create positive karma, but right now, because we lack deep wisdom, even the positive karma only gives us some limited positive results within the jail, If you take the example of the jail, our positive karma keeps us in the jail but gives us better conditions in the jail. But we're still in a jail. To get out of jail, we need the wisdom, understanding of the truth. That gets us out of jail. And what helps us to help others also is not just wisdom, but compassion also, love and compassion. Wishing to help other people also get out of the jail. Otherwise, we only get out for ourselves. That we can do with wisdom, but to help others, we need compassion. Compassion is the wish for others to be free of their suffering. Love is the wish for others to be happy. So they are connected, they're like brother and sister. One is more focused on affectionate wishing others to be happy, the other is more focused on the suffering of others and wishing them to be free of their suffering. Both, of course, are dominated by love. You could say this caring for others. Yeah, caring for others. Like a mother cares for her children. Okay, let's look at some verses from this amazing text. This text came together in the 8th century AD by a gentleman, a scholar and practitioner, a yogi called Shantidev. His text, Bodhisattvacharya or Entry into the Deeds of a Bodhisattva, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, in English, is a marvelous, remarkable text on how to train the mind in compassion, compassionate activity, in order to benefit others. And it's a text much loved by Mahayanists of India, Tibet, Korea, China. Wherever Mahayana Buddhism has gone, this text has been very important. It was originally in Sanskrit, and it's been translated especially into Tibetan, Chinese, and now English also. And of course it's there in other languages. So if you look at the chapter 5, which is page number 4 that you have, pages are not marked, but if you come to the 4th page, it says chapter 5, Guarding Alertness. Guarding Alertness, verse 1. Here we're being very practical now. We've looked at some theory, which is good, and it makes sense, but this is, how do we actually practice? Like you were saying, no? Commandments aren't good enough. We have to learn how to actually train our minds, our sick minds. According to Lord Buddha, we are sick. So those who wish to guard their practice should very attentively guard their minds. For those who do not guard their minds will be unable to guard their practice. Matlab, their practice of the path, their practice of the marg. Even if you understand very well the first noble truth, the second and the third, if you don't practice the path through guarding the mind, then we won't get anywhere. We will remain academics. We might know Buddhism A to Z, but we'll still have a completely out of control mind when it comes to, working, acting in the world, relating with other people. Our mind will be out of control. So what's the point? So we have to guard our minds. So then he goes more into this. In this world, unsubdued and crazy elephants are incapable of causing such harms as the miseries of the deepest hell, which can be caused by the unleashed elephant of my mind. Kehne ka matlab hai, if I don't control my mind, which is being compared here to a mad elephant, apparently when elephants go crazy, they really go crazy. As you can imagine, they're very large animals, they can destroy so much. Shantidev is saying that our mind is much more dangerous than a crazy elephant. Because our mind, if it is really negative, it can create the cause for us to go into hell, into a hellish kind of suffering existence. A crazy elephant cannot do that. It can kill you. The most a crazy elephant can do is kill you. But your mind can give you suffering again and again and again in the future lives. Yeah? So, they're saying these crazy elephants, which you have not been able to control, cannot create so much damage as can your mind, if you don't control your mind. Yeah? But if the elephant of my mind, verse 3, is firmly bound on all sides by the rope of mindfulness, then all fears will cease to exist, all virtues will come into my hand. So Shantidev was saying, I can actually control this elephant-like mind through the practice of what is called mindfulness, which is basically remembering virtue, bringing the mind back again and again to a wholesome object, to a virtuous object. I'll explain more about this. So if we are able to do that, then all of our fears, the fears that come with negative karma, all that will go. And all of these virtuous attributes like love, compassion, patience, tolerance, generosity, energy, meditation, concentration, all these virtues will then come into my hand easily if I practice mindfulness. So what is this mindfulness that is being spoken of? Here we need to speak about what Buddhists mean by meditation. Meditation doesn't mean just sitting silently with your eyes closed, thinking of nothing. Meditation here means basically making your mind habituated to what is wholesome. Habituating the mind to what is virtuous and wholesome. So the object of the mind has to be something which leads towards virtue, towards wholesomeness, which leads to happiness. So here, in the beginning, for example, in Buddhist meditation, we use simply the breath. We focus on the breath, and we just focusing on that. The mind has the potential to become calm and more clear, and less distracted. Okay, so that happens. So therefore, in this case, the breath is a wholesome object because we are using it to discipline our mind, to make it calm, more relaxed, more one-pointed. Yeah. So mindfulness is when you're meditating on the breath, let's say, following the sensation of breath at your nostril or at your abdomen, paying attention to that. A thought comes, you get distracted. Then mindfulness is aware that you're being distracted and brings you back to the breath. So mindfulness, or smriti in Sanskrit, actually means remembering. So you remember your wholesome object, in this case the breath, bring the mind back. That's what we mean basically by mindfulness. So bringing the mind back to your wholesome object, in this case the breath. But the wholesome object could be wisdom, could be love, could be compassion, could be a certain kind of reflection on death and impermanence. There are many, many wholesome objects of meditation. They're called wholesome because if they're done properly, they lead the mind into a more positive frame, a more deeper understanding about reality, and also a deeper appreciation of other people and caring for them and so forth. So that's a wholesome object. Okay? So meditation is basically that. Sometimes there are some meditations without thinking, but there are many meditations with wholesome thinking. So don't think meditation just means emptying the mind completely, having no thoughts. That's not the case. Since the mind is very complex, Buddha spoke of 84,000 delusions, so therefore there are many, 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 many meditation techniques. Just as there, if you read a medical dictionary, or there's a certain book you can get with all the different kinds of medicine you can buy in the world. There's thousands of medicines. Why? Because there's so many different kinds of problems in the body. So our mind also has many, many different kinds of gross and subtle problems and delusions and negativity. So we need many kinds of meditation. I'm just speaking in a simple way. So basically there are meditations which help to focus the mind, make it one-pointed, like the breath can help with that. And then there are meditations to help transform the mind, change the attitude in the mind, which is called analytical meditation, which I explained a bit before. For example, our normal reaction to someone we don't like is hatred, or wanting to attack them, or at least abuse them verbally, or complain about them. Through analysis, through a certain way of thinking, you could change your attitude to that person so much that you even feel sorry for them. It's possible. It just requires a certain kind of attitude and thinking, a different kind of thinking, different kind of analysis, using the power of the mind. Then you might even feel like crying when you see that person, realizing their suffering, their problem. Which is why, of course, they're behaving badly towards you, is because they have a problem. Happy people don't usually behave that badly, do they? really good, happy people, they don't behave badly, they don't need to. They're happy. Unhappy, confused people behave badly. I'm speaking in general. So therefore, analysis is very important. We have to change our mind. Why should we change our mind? Because anger, attachment, these things disturb the peace of the mind. We all want peace of mind. Anger, jealousy, all these things disturb the peace. So proper analysis can help us have a more even attitude towards everybody. So then the mind is automatically more peaceful. It's not peaceful to have a mind that's going up and down. Distracted, angry, passionately lusting after something. We may think that's enjoyable, but actually it's quite exhausting for the mind. I'm not saying we should have a totally neutral mind, which is like a dead person. No. But this up and down is exhausting. And of course then all the fear, the anxieties, the worries also come. If you love someone very much, oh, do they love me? When are they going to reply to my text message? I sent them a nice photo. When are they going to send me a nice photo? Ye sab chalega na, this problem. If we have a lot of wanting, expectation, So, how to make the mind more peaceful is to reduce the power of the destructive emotions. How to do that is through mindfulness, through meditation. Can't just do it by thinking, oh, it would be good to be more peaceful, or I must be more peaceful. That won't help. That just makes you more anxious, that, oh, it's not happening yet. So dhira dhira, we work with the mind through meditation. That's the main way we transform the mind. But proper meditation is based on first some study, listening, and some reflection. Then you can meditate. Then it makes more sense. It's like you can't make chapatis without first mixing water in the atta and then kneading it. मिला के फिर मारना पड़ता है, फिर आप चपाती बना सकते हैं. You don't throw the atta straight on the tawa. I don't know any technique of making chapati just throwing the atta on the tawa without mixing water or anything. So the process is necessary. So first you listen to teachings, read about them, whatever. Then you reflect a little bit. Then you meditate. Then it makes a lot of sense. Then it's really powerful. So that's why we say study is very important. Shouldn't think just meditation or just study. Both are important. And then also some reflection, discussion with your friends, that helps a lot to make things clearer in your mind.